I'm the youngest of 16 siblings. Oh, yeah. And I just want to have you picture a little bit our family dynamics. I can tell you, I didn't like anyone to play with. It was so great. My 16 siblings, my dad, and his 4 wives were all sharing the same house. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our house was in mud. Mud. Okay. YouTube video 101 on how to make a house in mud. You need 3 things: clay, water, dust. You take the water, you put it together, you mold it, and then you get the bricks. And with the bricks, what you get? A house. In between, you also put mud, of course. I grew up in a place that looked like this. Our family livelihood mostly revolved around agriculture. I like to consider that we had a company, our farm, and our parents were the co-CEOs. And we, the children, were all the employees of that company. We had a Saturday routine that started very early, 4 a.m. We're already on the way to the farm, no, to the company. And the managing director of the company, one of the CEOs, my mother, wanted us to be there very early because we would use the breeze of the morning to refresh ourselves. Because you practice farming activities during the dry season, and you get exposed to the sun for the entire day, and it drains you. By 4 p.m., after working on the farm, on the business, we're heading back. And that part was tough, because on the way back home, we were carrying with us the food that we would need until the next time we go back to the company. And the pathway to home was mountainous. And in between, you also had those wooden bridges that might just collapse as you're working on them. When I was 5, my father passed away. The recollections of my infancy have beautiful moments with that large family, but it was also a place of sadness, of fear, of anger, of worry. In those moments, you think about your options. I could have dropped out of school and be a cheap labor into somebody else's family's company that could have afforded me more calorie intakes and better quality clothing for our parties in our impoverished area. Or I could have also considered getting some drugs for my personal solace, or being violent. It was so hard. But I'm so glad I'm here today. I didn't make those choices. Instead, I gave a so high value to education. Education was my everything. I understood very early that it was my way out. And on the altar of education, I put sleep, leisure, social life, everything you could imagine. And that was inspired by the day I was witnessing water seeping through the poorly insulated roof of the house and making the mud everywhere. And that day, I internalized the first mantra that my past will never dictate my future. And my mother was also very instrumental in this journey. She instilled in me the resilience I needed. She consolidated some religious values that carried me throughout. She fostered solidarity among my siblings. And those people constitute the network that then afforded my school fees and school supply. When I was 20, that episode was fading out. Poverty, stress, hardship. And I was mirroring a different life. I was dreaming. Yaoundé at that time in Cameroon, I was in my room and thinking, okay, I know the modus operandi of poverty. I know how that thing works, how that thing can destroy potential in lives. I want to be in the space of human development. Because I had good grades and got scholarships, I went to the best institutions in the world, completed my education. But something else was also on the way. Cultural, social, racial challenges integrating within the European society. I minimized that. That was a mistake. Just one story. I remember a couple of years ago, I invited my mother to come and spend some time with us. She lives in Cameroon. And a few days after I sent invitation letter, she went and asked for a visa. Only a few days after, it was denied. And the reason she presents a migratory risk, as they labeled it. In those moments, you feel how powerless you are. You feel the loneliness. And guess what? You have to go back to work on the following day with low morale. But something else helped me in those moments. I built my mental muscles, accepting that life is inherently unfair. And also comparing myself only to my past self and never to anyone else. And I'm so glad when I consider all of those challenges, I was able to just be as a plane. Look at the plane. The plane uses the headwind to soar even higher and embrace obstacles as a source of strength. And when you are active and avoiding any form of passivity, you are actually able to enrich yourself and enrich others. And on that pathway, I was able to engage in a project that is so hard to me, is here. That project is about child development. By getting exposed to poverty and stress and all those children in the world exposed to violence and war, it affects the brain. And if the brain is affected, think about cognitive, social, emotional, motor skills, and all what can happen later in life. All those children will never make it on a stage like this one. Forget about them being the scientists and athletes and CEOs of the future. That would never happen. I got inspired to work into that. There are 250 million children in the world at risk of never reaching their potential. And that issue, guess what? It goes unnoticed in mass media. 66% of those live in sub-Saharan Africa. And I got inspired to work in that space because the solutions there are mostly very hard to scale, meaning they are hard to deliver to thousands and thousands of children and millions of children. There are two main solutions. One, in-person caregiving, bringing experts into the family to work with the parent on ways in which they can address the development of the child. And second option, preschool programs. But as you go to scale with those interventions, it's very, very hard to maintain the fidelity. So got inspired with a couple of development partners to work and exploring the potential of media. Media has a unique advantage in this case. Standardization, keyword. You can deliver the exact same intervention to a couple of parents. And I want to bring you again into a journey. Come with me. Let's go to Côte d'Ivoire.
Venez Venez voir, Angela est devenue fou. Suivez-moi, vous verrez. Mon enfant. Mon fils est né et à quatre pattes. Et il parle la langue des animaux avec sa fille.
Maman, calme-toi.
Tu ne peux pas me calmer. Ton frère, mon fils est devenu fou. Pourquoi tu ris?
Et le poulet fait.
Écoutez.
Et puis le chat fait.
Jean, là, il y a urgence.
Oh, maman.
Il faut aller sauver le bébé.
Non.
Va sauver le bébé. Oh.
Et le chien fait.
Donnez-la moi.
Mais maman, qu'est-ce qui te prend? Pourquoi tu as interrompu notre jeu?
Toi, Angelin, jouer? Mais je ne t'ai jamais vu jouer dans cette cour avec un enfant. Non. Toi aussi. Ne t'inquiète pas, mon fils. On va te soigner, n'est-ce pas, Jean?
Maman, je ne suis pas devenu fou. C'est Jean lui-même qui m'a dit que jouer avec les enfants leur permet d'apprendre. Et plus tôt on commence, plus tu seras intelligent.
Tout à fait, mais quand tu joues avec ton enfant, ça le rend intelligent.
C'est ce que nous faisons avec nos enfants. Et toi-même vu la différence?
Je reconnais que vos enfants, pour leur âge, sont très éveillés, mais n'est-ce pas aux femmes de jouer ainsi avec les enfants?
Sarah joue déjà avec Chantal. Mais moi aussi, je dois contribuer au développement de l'intelligence de mes enfants. C'est aussi de la responsabilité de tous les papas. Et depuis que je le fais, tous mes enfants sont proches de moi et je suis un père comblé.
J'ai compris, mon fils. Si c'est pour développer l'intelligence de mes petits-enfants que tu fais le fou, alors nous allons devenir tous fous dans cette cour. Santou, regarde Mémé. Regarde comment le cheval crie.
This video and 8 others, just as funny as this one, were provided to families on small SD cards. This is the way in those communities they share content. Probably don't know them in Europe, but I'm sure you do. You can store content and provide it in those small fonts. I took some of these pictures from the ground, and we measured the impact of getting exposed to this intervention, implementing a randomized control trial, which is a gold standard for measuring the impact of interventions. And what we found is that, first of all, the awareness on the issue increased, meaning parents were more likely to know what are some of the best techniques. In this case, improving the intelligence, but broadly, how cognitive stimulation of children can improve their development. But not only that, their behaviors also changed. We observed the behavior on the field and noticed that parents were more likely, by being exposed to the intervention, to play, talk, and use less violent discipline methods for children between 0 and 3 years old. And lastly, and this is my favorite, we found a way in which this can not only be delivered in these small rural areas, but how if a policymaker calls me and says, hey, Samuel, I need to talk to you. We need to bring this intervention to the entire Côte d'Ivoire, the entire Africa, the entire South Asia, and everywhere else. We're able to tell them how to do that. We say target a couple of families and use as well touch points such as village leaders, because we tested that. This project was my therapy. I realized that I was sick. And by working with policymakers, practitioners, all experts and leaders in the space of education in that country, I found a profound sense of professional accomplishment. And I want to leave you tonight. Challenge your challenges. Think about the challenges that you have. And decide tonight to turn mud into gold. Thank you.